Okay, so the previous lecture we looked at simple interest, and we started with example 1. And now we're going to continue with the other examples. So let's go to example 2. Example 2. A person requires a loan of 1,000 rands and is able to repay the loan after 18 months. Assuming a bank is willing to lend the person 1,000 rands, determine how much should be repaid when the interest rate is 12% per annum. So this example looks very much the same as example 1. The only difference here is that my time period is now 18 months and no longer 2 years. It is important to see here that our interest rate, which is per annum, and our time periods must have the same units. So we cannot have the interest rate per annum and the time period in months. So we have to convert the time from months to years. So to convert the 18 months to years, we just take the 18 and we divide it by 12, the number of months per year, and then we get 1.5. So now we know that the time period in terms of years is 1.5. Okay, so now we can continue with example 2. We start with our basic formula for simple interest. The future value is the present value 1 plus the interest rate times my number of time periods. My present value is 1,000 rands. My interest rate is 12% per annum. And because the interest rate is per annum, my N must also be in terms of years. And we said 18 months is the same as 1,5 or 1.5 years. So that will be 1.5. And then if we do the calculations, we get 1,180. Okay, now let's look at example 3. Given that an investor pays 200 rands interest at an interest rate of 10% per annum, determine the amount repaid if the duration of the loan was in A 3 years and in B 9 months. Okay, so what do we have here? We have the interest. The interest is the 200 rands. So we have the interest is equal to 200 rands. We have the interest rate, which is 10% per annum, 0.1 or 10% per annum. And you will see that I always put for the interest rate, I indicate the interest period. And then we have in A that our N is equal to 3 years. So let's just call that N of A. And then N for the B part is 9 months. But because our interest rate is per annum, we have to convert these 9 months to years. So to convert that, we take 9 and we divide it by 12. So 9 months is the same as 0.75 years. Okay, so if we look at our basic formula, the future value, and that is what we are trying to calculate here, determine the amount to be repaid. So we are looking at the future value. That is equal, our basic formula, the present value, 1 plus the interest rate times N. We have the interest rate. So we have the interest rate. We have the N, the number of interest periods. We don't have the present value, but we can easily find the present value because we have the interest. Now you will recall that our interest is equal to the present value times I times N. So if we have the interest and we have the interest rate and we have N, we can find the present value. Okay, so let's work with that. Okay, we see that the interest is equal to the present value times the interest rate times N. So the present value will be the interest rate divided by the interest, the present value is the interest divided by the interest rate times n. The interest is 200 rands divided, and now I'm working with the A part, so that's for question A. The interest rate is 10%, 0.1, and for the A part my n is 3, so I can get, for my present value, I get okay, and now I can do my substitution. My future value is my present value, 1 plus I times n. So my present value, which I've calculated just now, okay, so 866 rands and 67 cents. Just a few things to take note of here. My final answer is in terms of rands, so you have to indicate the unit. It is in rands, and when I work with rands, I round off to 2 decimals because we are working with rands. Okay, and then also, whenever you get an answer in the middle of a question, try to work with as many as possible decimals when you do your substitution, and then only round off your final answer. Okay, so this was the A part, and then for the B part we can do it very similar. So for the B part, again I want to get my present value, which is my interest divided by the interest rate times n. My interest is 200, my interest rate 0.1, and my n in this case 9 months or 0.75 years. And then I get an answer of 2,666. Okay, and then I can get my future value. I'm using this formula here, so the present value I substitute. Okay, that's 0.75, and I get my future value, $2,866 and 67 cents. Okay, example 4. Determine the interest an investor earns if the future value of his investment is 2,000 rands. The interest rate is 16% per annum, and the investment period is 5 years. Okay, so first of all, we would like to know what the interest is. What we have is we have the future value is equal to 2,000 rands. We have the interest rate is equal to 0.16 per annum. And we have n equal to 5 years. So it's important that my interest rate and my n are both in terms of years. They are in the same unit. And we would like to find the interest. So to get to the interest, we first need to find the present value. Now, how do we get the present value? We start out with our basic formula for simple interest. So the future value is the present value, 1 plus I times n. Now we have the future value and we would like to get the present value. So the present value is equal to the future value, and then we divide the future value with 1 plus I times n. The future value is given to us as 2,000 rands. Our interest rate is 16%, and our n is 5. And then we get for our present value okay, and if we have our present value, we can find our interest because we know that the future value is equal to the present value plus the interest. So the interest must be equal to the future value minus the present value. The future value is 2,000 rands. The present value we've calculated just now. And then we get that our interest is equal to 888 rands and 89 cents. Okay, example 5. What is the rate of interest per annum for an investment of 5,000 rands when 6 months later it is valued at 6,000 rands? Okay, so what do we have? We have the present value, and that is a 5,000 rands. We have the future value, and that is 6,000 rands. Our N is 6 months, but we want to find the interest per annum. So we have to convert these 6 months into years, and 6 months is equal to half a year. So we can get that by just taking the 6 months divided by 12 to give us 0.5 years. Okay, and we would like to get the interest rate. Okay, so here we have the 4 quantities: present value, future value, N and I. We have 3 of the 4, and we want to calculate the 4th one. Future value is present value 1 plus I times N. And we would now like to solve for I. So how do we solve for I? First of all, I take my future value and I divide it by present value. So I have 1 plus I times N on the right. And then to get rid of this 1, I will subtract 1 on the left and on the right. So I will have future value and I want to solve for I. So to solve for I will divide by N on the right and N on the left. So those two will cancel out. So I end up with the interest rate equal to future value over present value minus 1 divided by N. So my future value is 6,000 rands, present value 5,000 rands, and my N was equal to 6 months, which is just in terms of year 0.5, and I get an answer of 0.4. So my final answer is then not 0.4, my final answer is 0.4 per annum, or you can also say that your interest rate is 40% per annum. So this per annum is very important. Okay, and then lastly, example 6. A part-time student would like to do a course in statistics. The course costs 980 rands, but the student only has 800 rands. Assuming the student invests her money at a financial institution offering an interest rate of 18% per annum, how long before the student earns enough to enroll for the statistics course? Okay, so again, we start out with what we have. We have the future value, the cost of the course, which is 980. We have the present value, what the student has available, which is 800 rands. We have the interest rate, which is 18% per annum. And we would like to know how long will it take for the student to earn enough money. So we would like to know what is the value of N. Again, the 4 quantities, we have 3 of the 4, and we would like to calculate the 4th one. Okay, so we start out with our basic formula. And now we would like to find the value of n. So again, we solve this for n. We divide by present value on the left and on the right. So on the right we have 1 plus I times n. To get rid of the 1, I subtract 1 on the right and 1 on the left. So then I have and now I want to get rid of the interest rate on the right so that I have n on its own. So what I do is I will divide by the interest rate on the right and on the left. So the interest rate will cancel out here and I end up with n equal to this little formula here. And we can do our substitution. The future value is 980 rands, present value 800. My interest rate is 18%, and I get an answer of 1.25. Now, 1.25 doesn't mean anything in itself. It can be 1.25 days, weeks, years. So we have to specify this. Now, because my interest rate was in terms of years, my answer for n will also be in terms of years. But I think we all understand a number of months better than 1.25 years. So to express this in terms of months, you will just multiply 1.25 by 12. So if you take 1.25 multiplied by 12, you will get 15 months. So the student will have enough money for the course after 15 months. Okay, so that then brings us to the end of this first part on simple interest, and you can now do some of the simple interest exercises on your own.